কালি অকলে বহি আছো। A very good morning to one and all present here. We have assembled here for the International Symposium on Research Prospects in the Field of Humanities Abroad. We'll start our program with the ceremonial lighting of the lamp. May I request Ragini Mohanto to escort Dr. Surajit Sharma, Academic Vice Principal Arts, to do the honor. May I request Dipanjali Barua, Sabha Anish, Anansha Barthakur. I think we have our online guests. They have already joined. We are waiting actually for Principal Sir. He'll be joining us very soon. Thank you, Surajit Sharma sir, and my faculty members from the Department of English. The second program that we are trying to, we have organized chorus with students from our college will be singing the chorus. May I request all the students to come over here? The presentation, while presenting the college song Jutir Hikaye Onirban, stand up.
প্রজ্বলিত হোক জুড়ি চিরকাল জ্ঞানৰ শিখা চিৰজ্যোতিষ্মান চিৰজ্যোতিষ্মান চিৰজ্যোতিষ্মান।
Thank you to my dear students. The program, the international symposium that we are organizing here is in collaboration with the JB College Students Union. So within a very short time, our GS, Farhina, has I request Dr. Surajit Sharma, Academic Vice Principal, JB College, to speak a few words.
Good morning, everyone. Respected Head, Department of English. My dear students, and of course, our Chief Resource Person, I see Abhijit, very proud of. Good morning to you all, and I welcome you all to this international symposium being organized. And I'm sure that this event is going to be extremely fruitful because I think more and more opportunities for study are opening up, and there is a need for our students to become ambitious. For a very long time, we have been confining our ambitions to, say, going outside of the state maximum to Delhi or to Bangalore or to Hyderabad, and the possibility of actually pursuing a career in academics abroad, more specifically in the United States of America. That seems very remote. It has until now seemed very remote. But of course, Abhijit Sharma has in a way shown us that there are fields to be explored here. And this symposium becomes very, very relevant. Of course, as we all know, very conversely, fields of employment appear to be shrinking at home. And fields of employment are available, that the fact that they are available outside of our country. There are countries in Southeast Asia which are absolutely in demand of people with English speaking, English writing skills. These are things that we have not even thought about until now. That there are jobs to be found outside of India, and jobs which are tailor-made for our students. There are countries in Latin America where people from Assam are actually employed, universities. And of course, I don't need to say that people from West Bengal and Orissa are heavily populating academic institutions in the West. And it is only now that we are waking up, people from Assam are waking up to these opportunities. And in a way, we are so very fortunate that we have people who belong to our part of the world who have actually been pioneers in a sense. And very recently, actually, last year during the COVID period, we had an online symposium of this sort, a talk program, where there was a person from Delaware University, another person from Assam, Professor Mahashweta Barua. She came and she also, in a way, spoke about opportunities, career opportunities outside in the United States. And she surprised us all by saying that there were actually scholarships available, and there were universities in the US which actually were willing to pay you to study out there. And these were absolutely new ideas for us. And these are avenues that more and more people from our landscape, we need to actually know and explore. So my compliments to the head Department of English, JB College, for taking the initiative in organizing this event, and of course, everybody in the department, and particularly the Students' Union of JB College, which is an active collaborator in this event, in organizing this event. And may I congratulate you all for this and wish you all success in this event. It is my great privilege to be called upon here. I think in the theater they have a concept called the understudy. Every time there is a hero, there is always the possibility that at the last moment the hero might fall sick, the main actor. So there is always a second actor who mugs up all the lines of the hero and has to be prepared to step in at the last moment. At this moment, I am the understudy, stepping in for the principal, Dr. Poljati Mohanto, and it has been my great fortune. Thank you for this opportunity, and I wish everyone in this program all success for this program, and all the best to the students. May you reap all the benefits and develop the ambition that is the desired end of this symposium. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Surajit Sharma, sir. Now it's formally HOD's speech. So I don't have much to say, but it is always a good feeling to have among us students, all students who are actually shining, who are actually doing good, and we also have a bright researcher here, Diptangshu Das, who is also very busy. He has been attending a lot of, I think, seminars, but in the midst of this, he gave me the time. And Abhijit, it's difficult also to actually fix the time slot because I think both of them are in different time zones, but somehow we try to fix it up. Last minute preparation as usual. But anyway, I feel that the topic that has been chosen, research prospect in the field of humanities abroad, from planning to, from applying, from planning to going there and then doing, getting a full scholarship for your research work is really important. And 3 resource persons that we have. This symposium will be conducted in both online and offline mode. So we have some young researcher here, get maximum from them and try to be interactive. Okay, so with this word, I conclude my speech. Now I welcome Dr. Sabah Anish to give a short introduction of first resource person, Diptangshu Das.
Thank you, Pranami. Good morning, everyone. Of course, for Abhijit and Diptangshu in different time zones. But anyway, we are pleased to have with us 3 of our resource persons today. 2 of them are online, all the way from United States of America, and Anansha is here. Participants both in online and offline mode. To begin with a very brief bio note of Diptangshu Das. Diptangshu Das is currently a PhD scholar in the Department of Religious Studies, University of Denver, Colorado, USA. He is also an assistant professor in the Department of English, Dibrugarh University, presently on study leave. He holds BA, MA from St. Stephen's College, University of Delhi. He has taught previously at the University of Delhi, and his total teaching experience spans over 8 years. His research areas include representation of Hindu goddesses in literature and popular culture, virtual religious spaces, feminist studies, and cultural studies. We are really pleased to have amidst us Dept today, and thank you so much for sparing your valuable time to be with us today. And before we move on to Dept, I request for all our online participants to keep their microphone muted and videos switched off for better transmission. And for offline participants, and immediately after Dept's deliberation, we are going to have an interactive session. For offline participants, you can write it in a piece of paper, or you can come over and put your queries, feedback, suggestion, whatever for our resource person. And for online participants, please drop your queries, suggestions, feedback, whatever you have in the chat box, so that we can take your queries immediately after deliberation. Over to you, Dept.
I hope I'm audible.
Yes, Dept, you're audible.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So first and foremost, I'm so honored to be a part of this event, and I express my heartfelt gratitude to Professor Pranami Bonia Madam, head of the department, and the entire faculty and fraternity of the Department of English, JP College. It's a great honor, and I always love to interact with students and scholars. And I have another reason to be proud. So Avijit Sharma was my former student and research scholar in Dibrugarh University, and I feel really proud of his achievements, and I wish him the best for his future milestones. So on that note, I would like to begin and sort of share my thoughts on the topic. A few other disclaimers before I start, because as we all know, online connectivity can be a little tricky. So in case I lose network or you're unable to hear me or there's some glitch, please feel free to inform me or send me an email or in some shape or form. And the other disclaimer is I have roommates, right? So in case there is a background noise or you hear some noise, I do apologize for that. So what I did was, since we are talking of humanities research and those are huge, broad topics, I prepared a PowerPoint to keep us on track and so that I am able to formulate my thoughts in a more systematic way. So let me go ahead and present my slide. Just a minute, I'm trying to show the slide, but it seems there is a problem. Is the PowerPoint visible to all?
Yes, it's visible, but I think you need to go for the full screen. Full screen.
I think full screen is a problem for me because sometimes it creates technical glitches. Is this okay if I keep it mode?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so I have titled this presentation Researching Humanities and of course playing with the term researching, the scope and the strengths. Now let us ask ourselves, why humanities? Because we constantly talk about how humanities is in a state of crisis, but of course we also need humanities. Humanities are the need of the hour, right? Because of certain social issues, political issues, we need to understand society better. We need to understand the human condition better, right? So the moment we talk about research in humanities, we should emphasize critical thinking. And as we all know, critical thinking is the why question. Why does this phenomena occur? Why do people behave the way they do, right? So this critical thinking is the core essence of the humanities. And along with that, we also explore texts, contexts, traditions, and cultures. So the moment we talk about humanities research, our idea is to address the artistic, cultural, philosophical, historical, and political dimensions of the human experience, and also how all those spheres and dimensions are interconnected. Now, we should also talk about the theory, method, and pedagogy, because I come from the teaching background, and pedagogy is something that has always interested me, right? So it's not just about theory of the humanities and the way humanities are being taught and researched, but it's also about how humanities is being experienced in the classroom. And because we are talking in a literature context, so in the humanities, we talk about literary criticism and theory, we do close readings, we engage with textual analysis, and the very idea of text is expansive, right? Everything can be a text. It's not just a book or a novel or a literary text. We talk of cinema, we talk of advertisements, we talk of a religious ritual. So everything falls under the category of text and frameworks of interpretation. Now, I wanted to share this quote from Peggy Kiran, who is a humanities librarian at the University of Denver, and I wanted to cite her work, and I think she has something very profound, or rather very significant to say about humanities research. So I quote from her work, and if you're interested, I can share this article at some point through email. The common ground for humanities research is about, I quote, critical thinking through questioning, research, and judgment, with the individual contributing his or her interpretation to the community. So the word community for me stands out because research is never a singular or an isolated experience, right? So when we carry out research in the field of humanities, so whenever we study a culture, a phenomena, a text, we are actually contributing to the scholarly community, right? So humanities has an active role and contribution. So there are critics, who say humanities are useless because it's only about theory. I would say no, humanities is active. Humanities is what we need because it engages with the larger social structures and concerns. Now, because abroad again becomes a very huge category, and again, higher education would vary according to the context, the cultural, social context. I focused on the American context in particular because this is something I'm currently experiencing, and it's a part of my lived experience. It's been a year in Denver, Colorado. So I thought, let me share some of my own personal experiences. What I observed was, and I think this is very important, when we talk about humanities research these days, there is a strong interdisciplinary focus. So different disciplines within the humanities have come together in a very constructive conversation, right? So for example, so this is what I mentioned, interdependence of cognate areas. So for instance, a literary studies student would need to consult resources from history, right? So it's not that you study literature and you're solely occupied with a literary text, right? You have to go out of your discipline, right? You need to consult resources, materials from disciplines such as history. Like in my case, I heavily rely on cultural anthropology because religion borrows a lot from those disciplines, and even sociology for that matter. So this is what I tell students and the younger generation of research scholars, that yes, we need to branch out. We need to go, we need to come out of our comfort zones. We need to bring those disciplines in conversation. Now, in the American context again, I've seen that there is a scope for pursuing emerging and interdisciplinary fields. Now, these are certain fields that we haven't even heard of in the Indian context. For example, religious studies, and which is my discipline at the moment. So religious studies, people generally have misconceptions. They feel that, well, it's all about learning, sacred texts or rituals, but it's more than that, So religious studies, it's an interdisciplinary field where we bring in concepts from sociology, anthropology, theology, literature, art. So we look at religion as a text. Same goes for digital humanities. Then we have musicology. Even musicology was something very new to me because it's not about music per se, right? It's a sociological study of music. How do different disciplines talk about music? Then area studies, for instance, race studies, right? And creative writing. And we have Abhijit with us, and he has a lot more to say about creative writing, I'm sure. So these are emerging fields. And there are a lot of other fields, a lot of them. And these are areas that you actually get to explore when you come to US. And that is one reason why we need to talk about those fields, so to speak. Now, the third important aspect about humanities, and especially here in US, I've seen is how, education is constantly located in the broader socio-political and cultural structures. So as I said a few minutes back, it's not about writing a paper in your room or in the library and, trying to come up with some theory. How does your research contribute to the larger social conversation or cultural conversation for that matter, right? And this is where I come to the next point. It's a personal reflective process. Why I do what I do. And this is one question I often ask my students, why I do what I do. Why do I do the kind of research, right? So just to clarify this point, if I study women authors or if I study feminist literature, my position as a man will automatically influence my reading of the text. And that is something I need to acknowledge in my research. So research is, as I said, it's not simply a process of reading and writing. Research also has to do with our positionality and power politics. And this is something, this is strongly emphasized in the US context. Okay, so research has to become a part of our lived experience. And this connects to the next point, the positionality of the researcher, gender, race, ethnicity. Okay, we have to be mindful of the kind of research that we are doing. So the self-reflexive moment is very, very crucial for humanities research, especially in the American context. And as I have been saying, it also bridges the gap between theory and practice. And of course, this can take different forms. For me, theory and practice in religion would be very different from theory and practice in sociology or in some other humanities field, let's say philosophy, let's say, art history, for instance. But I always believe that there is a way we can translate theory into practice. And for me, classroom teaching, pedagogy is one example of how we can do that. Then I thought, why not talk about the groundwork? Because so far we have spoken about, or we have been engaging with the philosophy of research. But how does one prepare oneself for research, right? How do you even identify an area of study or interest? And I think this itself becomes a huge, broad, separate topic, right? For me, I think an area of study is always an organic process. Sometimes it might take years to develop your own niche, your own interest, and that is how it should be, okay? Give yourself time to engage with texts, try to see what kind of text, what kind of literature, what kind of theory speaks to you, right? And what does it involve? It's about selection of field, subfield. For instance, if I say I study mythological literature, so that's a subfield within literature. But then what are my texts? Right? Am I focusing on women-centric texts? Am I focusing on, texts from a certain genre, so to speak? What are my theories? What are my contexts? Am I studying a contemporary context? Let me give my, let me cite example from my own research. Am I looking at contemporary Hinduisms? Or am I looking at more ancient texts? So those are decisions that I need to make at every point of my research. And what are the theories that I'm going to work with? And remember, I'm using the word theories because there are multiple frameworks that we work with, right? It's not that we focus solely on the feminist framework, because the feminist framework will be in close conversation with the Marxist framework, which will be in conversation with the queer framework, so on and so forth. So we need to find a position among all these fields, texts, and theories. And the second point is very close to my heart, and this is something I always tell my students, that you have to draw resources and confidence from your own academic training, because academia or academic training itself is an ongoing process, right? As we do our bachelor's, master's, PhD, MPhil, we grow along with our research work, right? And we need to take strengths from what we have learned, especially in India or Assam for that matter. And I think this is important. We need to, in a way, also question abroad, because we always tend to privilege abroad as the site of knowledge and, as this reference point. I also want to question that sort of a privilege, because we too have a lot to offer, right? We too have a lot to teach those folks in US academia. So please build on your prior strengths. The third important point is, whenever we talk about research topics or trying to think of a proposal, your topic has to be a good fit with the expertise of the faculty within the department. And this is very true in US. The word fit itself becomes very important. When I say fit, I'm talking about how, for instance, if I prefer or if I'm inclined to work on goddesses and popular culture, I would need to find someone who would be interested in my kind of work. right? So it's about contacting potential mentors. So basically what you do is you send emails to sort of, you shortlist certain scholars and you sort of contact them via email. And please make it a point to write brief emails. They don't have time to read extended long emails. So keep it brief, keep it simple, but be very specific, and keep browsing university websites, right? Keep checking what new, what all disciplines might speak to you, which particular department might be more suitable for your work. So it requires a lot of prior work, okay? A lot of preparation, so to speak. Along with that, you'd also need to consider scholarship and funding options, right? Because in US, generally, they give you full scholarship if you're admitted. So that is one benefit in the US system, unlike UK, I would say. So that's important. So try to check different options and keep an eye on the funding opportunities. And then comes the application process. How do you prepare the application? That itself is a huge, huge journey. And again, every journey begins with a small step. So you can think of the initial stages, such as you take exams. Again, GRE, the graduate record examination. Not all universities require GRE. And that is something that will again depend on your specific program or department. But anyhow, you need to keep an eye. If exams are needed, you need to take those. And the TOEFL exam, the English exam, is compulsory in most cases. Then you need to have your writing samples, your essays, your statement of purpose. Again, the statement of purpose is a whole new genre, right? It's not just about your research interest. The statement of purpose will also cover your academic background, your interest, your passion for a particular project, and why are you interested in that particular university or institution. Recommendation letters. Yes, you need to be in good books. I mean, you need to be in good terms with your professors. Then you have to build that relationship of trust and confidence, and you need to approach them for your recommendation letters, right? So that explains why you need to take your academic performance very seriously. And then the post-exam. So, I mean, you get the good news, you're accepted, but then again, the story doesn't end. You need to focus on the paperwork, the visa. So there is a lot of work, right? But I'd also say that there is a lot to learn from this process. And trust me, from my own experience, even if you get a rejection letter, that also is a learning experience. You will be aware of your, let's say, not limitations, but you'll know where to fill in those gaps, right? And the next point is, again, very important for me as a person. I believe that when you go abroad, whichever country, whichever culture, whichever location, it's a social learning experience. You gain a certain life skill, How do you adapt to a new place? How do you adapt to a new culture? How do you adapt to a new location, right? So cross-cultural exchange is very important in life. And that also leads to a meaningful academic exchange. And that is something I constantly emphasize, in my own work, in my own teaching experiences, and in my own interaction with students. And the last but not the least, I think we should also sort of look at it from a different perspective, that by going abroad, students also make a meaningful contribution to the academic culture of India, or Assam in particular. I also want to foreground Assam here. Let's say this whole symposium is one very small but significant way of having a conversation, right? Because we are talking, we are in a dialogue, we are speaking in a scholarly discourse. So this means a lot, right? So we need to come back, or in different ways contribute and share what we have learned. So, and that is something I always emphasize. Now, I thought, why not talk about the general format of a PhD program in the US? Generally, you have coursework for 2 years. Now, this is different from how it's done in the UK. UK, it's a bit shorter, I would say 3 years. But in the US, it spans 2 years. Where students take elective courses from different departments, both within and outside your subject. Then the third year is the comprehensive exams. You have general and subject-specific exams. In the third year, again, towards the end of third year, students generally they tend to defend their dissertation proposal. And year 4, 5 beyond, because US PhD is very extensive. Sometimes students, scholars also exceed 5 years. That's where you start working on the dissertation. Now, why have I shown this timeline? It is to give us an idea of how rigorous research is, right? So, if you decide on applying abroad, be prepared for a very rigorous and extensive training, right? Because the idea of a PhD is not just about writing your dissertation, it's more about gaining expertise on a particular field, right? So I think that's something we need to remember and consider. And I would conclude my presentation, this brief presentation, with some questions that we all need to ask ourselves as scholars, students, teachers of humanities, that how do we translate theory into meaningful practice, right? As I said, pedagogy is one example. There are other ways of doing it. I'm sure Abhijit will tell us great things about creative writing and how creative writing can also transform society. For me, even religious studies has a great role to play, because religious studies can also sort of promote harmony and constructive dialogue in a world of religious conflict. How does one respond to broader socio-political issues? Definitely, because the moment we talk of humanities or literature for that matter, we take strong political position as feminists, Marxists, post-colonial critics. So those matter a lot, right? We are actually engaging with the world around us. The third question, how does one turn research into a tool of empowerment? Now, when I say empowerment, I'm not just talking about how you develop your career or how you sort of build your CV. Yes, those things are important. Those are part of life, how you progress in your career. But I'm also talking of personal and social empowerment, right? Because the moment you engage in research, you gain a certain perspective, and through that you are in a way capable of influencing the larger ideas in society. And for me, that is one form of empowerment. And to inspire myself and to inspire all of us who are part of this world of humanities, I thought I'll cite this quote from Bell Hooks, a very famous Black feminist author who passed away a couple of months back. But her book is very powerful. It's called Teaching Critical Thinking, Practical Wisdom. And this is what Bell Hooks said: a radical commitment to openness maintains the integrity of the critical thinking process and its central role in education. This commitment requires much courage and imagination. So for me, I think Bell Hooks sums it up pretty well, right? So humanities is always about courage and imagination. We should have an open mind. We should be able to grow. We should be ready to evolve, and we should be able to challenge our own boundaries. Okay, we should be ready to come out of our comfort zones. On that note, I conclude my talk, and thank you so much for your patient hearing.
Thank you, Diptanshu. That was really indeed a very, very wonderful deliberation and very informative. We have come to know, he has touched upon almost all the areas that can go into research of humanities. And he has actually shown that research is all about critical thinking, and especially when it comes to humanities, critical thinking is something that we cannot, critical and original thinking is something that we cannot leave back. And also issues like positioning, gender issues, and politics. Yes, as it is said, nothing today is apolitical. So even research itself cannot be beyond politics. And of course, he pointed out theory positioning and then personal positioning, and then not everything that we get or see in the West is privileged. We have to break that perspective also. And how rigorous, and if anyone is thinking of research abroad, particularly the US, how rigorous and how difficult it is, both in terms of work and also in terms of time spent. So now the session is open for discussion. I'd like to have questions from our participants. both online and offline. In online mode, you can drop your queries for Diptangshu right in the chat box. As of now, I can't see anything in the chat box. I also invite our offline participants to, to respond to that very, very informative kind of deliberation. Well, Diptangshu, till people come up with their thinking, I would just like to clarify one doubt, because many times it is believed that a researcher's position has to be neutral, a researcher is not an activist and all that. The traditional way, I suppose, of looking into research. So does that really contradict with what you said of taking a very strong political positioning?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, there is nothing called objectivity, right? As researchers, scholars, we are bound to have biases, right? We might end up taking a strong position. But for me, the idea is to acknowledge that very position, is to acknowledge our biases, right? So when I write a paper, when I teach a class, when I enter the classroom, this is what I acknowledge, that, okay, I'm a man, but I also come from an intercaste background, my father being a Dalit, SC, and my mother being a Brahmin. I have, so those are positionalities that I occupy. And my reading of the text will definitely be informed by the way, I look at the text from that very position. But for me, that is not a hindrance, right? For me, that is a way of empowering my reading of the text. And that is how I also deconstruct my own privilege and my own, perhaps, positionality while engaging with the text. Hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you, Diptangshu. So I don't think, no other queries are there as of now, but people might actually come up with more queries in the course of time. In the meantime, we are here ready to move to the second resource person that we have amidst us, Abhijit Sharma. Abhijit, welcome. And oh yeah, there is another query. Diptangshu.
This has nothing to do with the lecture itself. What is the right?
Abhijit, Surajit Sharma sir wants to know what's the time out there. I think it's a 12 hours difference.
It's 12:42 a.m. in Athens. It's really late.
Okay, so yeah, we are in different time zones. So for you also, it's good morning will work, I suppose, right? Okay. For a brief introduction, we have with us Farhina, the General Secretary of JB College Students Union. She will introduce our second resource person, Abhijit Sharma, and then post his deliberations, he will take up the interaction too. Over to you, Farhina.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to introduce Abhijit Sharma sir to our participants today. Abhijit Sharma sir is a poet and a researcher of global indigenous writing with particular focus on Native American women writers and literatures from Northeast India. He is the recipient of the UGA Arts Lab Fellowship 2022 and is currently pursuing his PhD at the University of Georgia, Athens, USA. His work is published or forthcoming in the margins, AAWW, Lunch Ticket, the Lincoln Review, Chapter House Journal, the Albion Review, Glassworks Magazine, Gasher Journal, Rigorous Magazine, South 85 Journal, Sheila Najik Online, the Roadrunner Review, and others. One of his poems was recently nominated for the Best of the Net by Lincoln Review. Over to you, Abhijit sir. Thank you.
Okay, can we have one of the cameras turned to the audience? Okay.
Pardon, Abhijit?
Yeah, can we have one of the cameras turned to the audience? I would really like to.
Okay,
Look at the audience.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Okay, so I will anyway start. Yeah. So, first of all, thank you to the Department of English, Jagannath Borough College, Jorhat, for inviting me as a speaker. I don't know how much justice I can do with that, but I mean, I do. My talk will primarily be very informal, and I wish that I could have like seen somebody on the screen. Otherwise, it's like talking to a wall. But anyway, yeah. So I'm Abhijit Sharma. So for those of you who don't know me, I mean, yeah, a very good introduction was anyway given. So, and really, it's an honor to share a panel with my MPhil supervisor, Professor Dept Das, and I mean, and also the fact that I am, I mean, even though virtually speaking in front of my professors, it's really, I mean, for me, it's really a big thing. And in my talk, I will primarily talk about how to apply to US universities and why it's worth it. Okay, so I don't have a PPT. I don't my talk won't be that formal, as I already mentioned. So so I'm sure. I mean, I completely understand that. For students who want to apply to US universities, it's always this question like, how do I start, where to start? So that is why I felt like, if I can like talk in details about how to apply, what are the things we should expect and stuff like that, I think that will be really helpful. And yeah, so let me start with that. So I think the very first thing one needs to do is to make up their mind about the area they want to work on, because I think that is like the first step you need to take before really starting on this journey. And for a lot of people, it will be like a year-long journey. For me, it was like a journey of 8 months nearly, from like preparing to finally coming to the US. So I think before you start on this journey, it's always better if you can make up your mind as to on what area you want to work on. And as sir has already mentioned, that you need to talk to your professors. I believe you also need to do your own bit of research. So for example, I mean, while I was doing my MPhil, I certainly knew that I need to do a PhD after that. But also the fact that I mean, a lot of you know that I do creative writing, so I wanted to kind of find a way where I will be able to do both, where I can do my research. I'm also like, as sir has mentioned, I did my MPhil, and I also want to pursue something in creative writing. So I did my research and found that, I mean, a lot of people confuse this. I'm not really in a creative writing program. My program is actually called PhD in English with a creative dissertation. So at the end of the 5 years, I am supposed to submit a creative dissertation. But in the meantime, I can actually, take a lot of courses from the critical side. So that's there. So yeah, so what I'm trying to primarily say is this, that you need to know what you want to pursue, because as sir said, it would be a very rigorous journey. You have to do a lot of work. So I mean, I always tell people not to just apply just because you want to come to the US. I mean, that's a bad plan. You should actually prepare things. And as I said, the first thing is to make up your mind as to the area you want to work on and the program that will be fit for you, because you don't want to join a program and be like, oh, I don't know, like that's not for me. I mean, for that you need to do your research. As I said, you need to do your own bit of research as to what the program has to offer, what the program will in the long run I mean, expect from you. So yeah, so these are the things you need to keep in mind. That's the first step. And the second step, I believe, is that you need, I mean, that's a very, I would say not a lot of people will agree to this, but also these, I mean, I'm not an expert, right? So these are the things that worked for me. So I'm just sharing that. I'm not like a coach as to how to apply to the US. So these are the things that work for me. So I'm just sharing them. So yeah, so I believe the second thing you need to do is to make a list of universities and programs you want to apply to. So once you know, like, this is what I want to do, and then you should actually, the next step I believe is make a list of like 15 universities. I'm sure a lot of you will be like, this is an expensive business, right? The application fees are somewhere between $80 to $100, and I won't be able to apply for 15 universities for sure. The point is, I will tell you how the list will keep on shrinking with time. So so that is my suggestion. Like, make a list of 15 universities you feel that will. The programs. Not universities. Don't go for the universities. Go for the programs. So the programs that will work for you. Make a list of 15 universities, and so that but when you make the list, I want to suggest a few things that you should. I would like to put up a few things that you need to keep in mind. The first thing is that it's always better to apply to R1 universities, okay? Because the point is, you can apply to R2 universities, R3 universities. In US, there is this categorization. So I believe it's always better to apply for, I can't speak for R2 and R3 universities, but I believe it's always better to apply for R1 universities because they're called R1 because of high research activity and the professors you will meet in these universities. My university is an R1 university. It's, as you know, the University of Georgia. So here the professors, every other professor you meet is a reputed scholar in their field. And I think that is really, something I believe important because you just don't want to, I'm not saying that, I'm not judging anybody, but I will talk about it, like why it's worth it. In that section, I will tell you like why I think R1 universities are really better. But yeah, so that is what I'm saying, that R1 universities, as I said, are research, high research activity universities. And also there, the professors are mostly, kind of reputed scholars in their area. And also another thing I want to put in that, it's not very tough to get into USA. Now you might wonder like, okay, like, is it that easy? The point is, it is, but because there are like 4,000 plus universities in the US, you can just get into any random community college and stuff like that, but you won't get the visa. So that is one thing you need to keep in mind, because if you get into R1 university, I think your chances of getting a visa increases by lips, okay? And so that is one thing, that don't just apply. When you apply to universities, it's like, oh, I need to go to the US, so I will just apply to any community college and university. Don't do that, okay? So always, like, I applied to 7 universities and I got through 5, and and all of them were like R1 universities. And so, the university I'm in right now is like the oldest public universities in the US. So apply to, when you stand in front of the visa officer, in whether you're in a consulate or an embassy, you need to really like have that that confidence as to like, yes, this is like a very good university and they have given me admission, so I need to go. So I believe, so that is why I'm saying that please apply to R1 universities. You can get into any community college here, but don't do that, okay? So the next thing you need to keep in mind is the funding. Sir has already talked about it, so I would like to like expand on that. I will talk from my experience. Obviously, as I said, not an expert, right? So the next thing you need to keep in mind is funding. You need to look for fellowships, assistantships, and scholarships, okay? So as Sir said, that education here is very expensive. Every other day I meet somebody from India and I like, okay, like, do you have funding or fellowship or something like that? And they're like, no, we don't have that, or I don't have that. And then I'm like, when they tell me the amount of loan they took to come here, that really like blows my mind, okay? So that is why, you need to know that it's damn expensive. And I don't know about most of you, but for me, it was really not possible to like come, like I don't have that much money to come and study in the US. So that is why, because a lot of people take loans and stuff, they get into the student debt, they get into student debt, and what follows after that. So so for me, I always tell people that I wouldn't have come to the US if I didn't have a fellowship, because it's not possible. I mean, you guys should just do some Google search and see how expensive that is. Okay, but yeah. So as I was saying, that you need to apply for fellowships or assistantships, and the best way to know about them is to write to the department. Okay, I'm not asking you to write to the professors you want to work with. There is always a graduate coordinator, or there is a program coordinator, there's this program director often. So you need to like write to them and ask, like, I want to apply. Is there any fellowship or is there any assistantship? Like, I'll be given, if I go there and stuff like that. All the universities I applied to, they gave me assistantship. I mean, teaching. I had to teach for like 20 hours. I mean, there's this cap. We cannot, like, as international students, work for more than 20 hours. So yeah, so you need to ask the program coordinator or the program director and people like that about that, because I'm sure the professors won't know about it. I mean, obviously they will know, some of them will know, but you can't just ask them about whether you will get assistantship or fellowship or not. So currently, I mean, that is how it worked for me. I wrote, once I got into the University of Georgia, into the PhD in creative writing. I mean, that's not the PhD in creative writing again. It's PhD in English with a creative dissertation. So yeah, so I wrote to the department, asked, like, it's not possible for me to, like, pay for my education. So they were like, yeah, we can give you assistantship. So I got this, the assistantship, and then they only told me that you can actually apply for a fellowship, which is like really reputed. You should apply for it. If you get it like that, that would be great. So the name of the fellowship they mentioned was UG Arts Fellowship, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna get in there. So, but 3-4 weeks later, I get this email from the Wilson Center telling me that, yeah, I got the fellowship. So that is why I don't teach here. So I pretty much, I mean, the only thing I do is I work on a book, and I'm currently working on a book, which is supervised by my major professor, Lee and Howe. I will talk about her in a while. Okay. So yeah, so yeah, so that is a different section altogether. So yeah, so I mean, yeah, so you guys need to like write to the program and need to know like if there is any fellowship, assistantship, scholarship available. I'm sure there are many, and if you show your interest, they will definitely help you in getting it. I mean, that is how it worked for me. So yeah, so that is one thing. The next thing you need to keep in mind, I mean, I have a, I wrote some things down so that I just don't fumble through the entire session. But yeah, so the next thing you need to remember is to write to the professors you want to work with. I mean, Safar has already mentioned about it, and I don't think I can really like add much to it. But anyway, just in some way, I'll repeat that. I mean, this is one thing I've noticed with professors here in the US, that they usually reply to the emails. I mean, it's not like India where like you send an email and you wait for years. So yeah, so it's not that way. So the professors usually reply. So write a good email. I mean, sir has already talked about it. Write a brief one, but a very good one. I mean, bring your A game to it, and like, I mean, why? So you might wonder, like, why is it really important? It's because, as far as I understand it, some of them are actually part of the selection committee. So when they see your name and they're like, okay, let's bring this kid in, right? So yeah, so I think that is why you need to like write to people you want to work with, and I mean, share in that email that you'll write, share the work you want to do, and like ask them whether they're interested in the area you want to work on and stuff like that. And some of them will say that no, like we're not taking in students this year, and some will say yes, I mean, you should apply, I'm really interested in working with you and stuff like that. So that is how your list will start shrinking, right? I told you, right, that make a list of 15 universities, you will see that it will somewhere come down to around 10, 11, 9 anyway. Okay, so this is the point where it shrinks. Okay, so yeah, so it's very important, because sometimes what happens, because as I said, it's a very expensive business. Okay, where you actually you will have to pay and what is that called? Admission fees? No, that's not called admission fees. But yeah, so the fees that you pay to like apply, yeah, application fees. Sorry, yeah. So the application fees are very high, so you really need to, keep that in mind. Just don't apply randomly. Write to the professors. Know if they really want to work with you. So if they don't want to work with you, don't apply to that university because you just don't want to spend $80 or $100 just like that, right? So the next thing you need to keep in mind is that get good recommendation letters. I mean, all the programs will need it, okay? And contact the people you want. I'm sure there will be people you want to write, you want them to write a recommendation letter for you. So like approach them nearly 6 months before. This is one mistake I did. So I approached, people like nearly a month or 2 months ago, and a lot of them are really angry about it. So don't do that. Just approach these people around 6 months before, and I'm sure a lot of people will help you. And if you're applying for PhDs, I believe it's really better if you can get recommendation letters from associate professors or some noted scholars in your field. So that would really be like great, okay? So you just don't want random people to write a recommendation letter, so that won't work. And also, I guess you, I'm not sure, but I think you also need to, the people who write recommendation letter to you, they need to have an official email ID, okay? So yeah, these are the things you will learn. So that's not, not the kind of things you need to really think about in the very beginning. But yeah, so I just wanted to put it. And another thing, it just falls under getting good recommendation letters is that, you must ask someone who can talk about your potential as a researcher, okay? In that, there should be one person. I think in most programs, they want 3 recommendation letters. So one of the recommendation letters should be about your potential as a researcher, somebody who has worked with you. And for me, Dept sir was that person. He wrote one of the recommendation letters for me. And so, so that is what I'm saying. One of the recommendation letters should be written by somebody who knows you, who can talk about your potential as a researcher. Okay, so done with that. The next thing you need to keep in mind is like prepare for your GRE and TOEFL if required by the program. There are a lot of programs that will not need your GRE and TOEFL score. So, I remember I didn't submit GRE scores to any of the universities I applied to. Also I applied just after the pandemic. So perhaps now it's back to the way it was, but I believe it's really important to like check if the program really needs you to submit your TOEFL and GRE score. I think TOEFL is more like mandatory. I submitted my TOEFL score, I think, with every application packet. But so you need to check about the GRE, okay? So, and as I said, they're expensive, so make sure that, your program requires it, they need it, right? So I think a lot of universities are doing off with the TOEFL scores too. So, so you need to, I'm just giving you cost-effective ways to apply to the US, okay? So it's, this is me, somebody who had no money, but still came to the US, okay? So I guess that's true with a lot of people from our region. So I'm just trying to put it that way. So so the next thing you need to keep in mind is to, when you make the list, please check on the requirements of the program. I will be mentioning a few, but you need to know what the program wants in the application packet. Application packet is all, all the SOP, critical paper, TOEFL score. They, put together there, that is called the admission packet. So in that admission packet, you need to know what every program will need different stuff. For example, the Minnesota State University wanted a WES report, which I sent, and I got through the Minnesota State University, but I never went for it. So that was a waste of money. Like it's like 25,000 rupees. So look for. Just be a bit mindful of these things. you just don't want to waste a lot of money, because you will need them when you come to the US. Okay, so save money. So that's the formula here. So yeah, so as I said, be mindful, or just ask. I mean, one thing I believe is something I've never experienced before coming to the US. It's this, that you can actually ask silly questions to the universities, and they do reply to that. Okay, so if you believe, oh, I don't know whether they will think I'm stupid for asking that question, don't do that. Just ask, they will reply, don't worry. Okay, so in my experience, they have. Okay, I have asked many silly questions, and they are like very kind enough. They were very kind enough. They were like, yeah, they helped me through it. So don't worry about that. So the next thing you need to keep in mind is, I know my talk is very informal. That is how I speak. So there's no way out. Okay, I'm very bad with formally structuring my talks. So yeah, so the next thing you need to keep in mind is, write a good critical paper. I believe that is, the make and break point of your application packet, because they really want to know, the people who are in the selection committee, they want to know if you have a critical understanding of a field, whether you can really, if you're really prepared to start your PhD journey, right? So I think that is one thing you need to keep in mind, that write a good critical paper, and I believe that's the most important thing in your admission packet. And yeah, write, revise, ask your professors to check it. I mean, I believe your professors would really help you. While you can just write a critical paper. Critical paper is what we call academic papers, right? So yeah, so academic paper, you have to, like, there will obviously be a word limit. So as I said, you need to know these things. What are the requirements? So as I said, write a good critical paper, then revise it, ask your professors to check it, and follow MLA rules strictly. So yeah, so that is one thing. The next thing you need to do is write a strong SOP. SOP, I mean, the next important thing after your critical paper, I believe, is an SOP, because I think today one of the resource person will teach you how to write a SOP. That's learn that. Okay, learn how to write a good SOP, because it's so important. So I will just put up a few points that you need to keep in mind. I'm not teaching you how to write an SOP, but there are a few things you need to keep in mind while you are writing your SOP. Okay. So these are primarily questions, and if you can remember it, that's great while you're writing your SOP. I mean, the first question is, why are you fit for the program? You need to, like in your SOP, you need to write something about that. You need to tell why you are fit for the program, and also why they should choose you, amongst like thousands of applications. What is so different about you? Okay, so that is something you need to prove, or you need to write about in your SOP. And the next thing is, what can you give to the program? So it's not like you will only take from the program. You have to give something to the program. So you need to talk about your teaching experience, your previous work, so stuff like that. And also in your SOP, you need to write about your academic work, the works you've done before. For me, I believe two things worked. I mean, I will be that honest. I mean, there's no glossing over things. Two things really worked for me is that I was working in Dibrugarh University as a part-time for like nearly a year. And secondly is that I did my MPhil, right? So I think those two things really, worked in my favor. And I think, yeah, so you need to find what are your strong points, why you think they should take you in, right? So yeah, so talk about that, and also name a few professors you want to work with in that SOP. I know you will write to the professors beforehand, but in that SOP also you need to mention at least two professors. I think don't write, I want to work with everybody. So you can't work with everybody. They're like, a lot of professors in these universities, so you can't work with every person in the department. Okay, so you need to like mention at least two professors you want to work with, and why you want to work with that professor. So that needs to be like mentioned. Okay, so that should be a very strong reason. That is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, so write about it. And but one that is more like a suggestion I would give, that don't gloss over too much. I mean, don't write just don't write things that are not true, or you just like exaggerate a lot of things. Don't do that, because these people read SOPs, every 6 months. Okay, so they know if whether it's because they will compare, right? So you will actually submit your transcripts with your your transcripts in your application package. So they will obviously compare, and you cannot just lie in your SOP. Okay, so don't do that. I guess that is one of the mistakes that a lot of people do, that people gloss too much over it. But please don't do that. I mean, be true, right? I mean, see, it's not like everybody has to have an MPhil, or you need to have a lot of work experience and stuff like that. A lot of people don't have that. Okay, so that is why just be true. Just, tell them who you are honestly. That is the point of an SOP. But also there are a lot of technicalities. I'm sure the resource person will tell you guys about that. Okay, so yeah, so it's all. I've almost reached the end. But yeah, so my only suggestion is don't randomly apply. Okay, so the application process will cost you time, and the application process will cost you money. But also time is money, right? I don't have to stress that. So the point is, just don't randomly apply. I've mentioned all the steps that you need to follow and the things you need to keep in mind. So follow them. And yeah, so when you apply, be confident about it, that yes, this is the best I've given. That is how I did it when I put my applications. I was like, yes, this is the best I can do. So yeah, so that's it. You don't want to regret, right? After you receive a lot of rejections, I'm sure you will be very demotivated. And I completely understand. I've never received a lot of rejections, but I'm pretty sure I've seen a lot of friends facing them and how they feel demotivated. I don't want any of you to feel that. Okay, so that's the thing. And now the last thing I will talk about is it worth it? Should you come to the USA? Okay, so I believe it's really worth it. For me, the answer is yes, because you get to work with so many reputed scholars and researchers. So, right now, for this semester, I'm taking a course with Professor John Lowe. Professor John Lowe is the person who's writing the official biography of Ernest Gaines. I'm sure if you guys have read Southern literature, so you guys for sure will be familiar with Ernest Gaines. So yeah, so Professor John Lowe is writing the official biography of Ernest Gaines, and in his class, it's so interesting because every time you will read a text by Ernest Gaines, Professor Lowe will be like, there are like 5 endings to this novel, and Gaines actually chose this. So he will go on to speak about the other 5 endings that Ernest Gaines had in his mind and stuff like that. And also, John Lowe is like a very reputed Faulkner scholar, so so that is what I'm trying to say. You will meet all these people that will really, those sessions are so informative, and you get a completely different perspective, I would believe, because it's a different thing to read Ernest Gaines and William Faulkner, but also it is a different experience to, read William Faulkner or Ernest Gaines with someone like John Lowe, who has worked his entire life, he has worked for his entire career on like Ernest Gaines and John Lowe, on William Faulkner, right? So yeah, so that is one thing. And also, as I mentioned, my major professor is Lian Hao. Lian Hao is a very noted Native American writer and researcher. So yeah, so I think you guys should come down to the US or to, I don't know about other countries. So yeah, it's worth it. And as I said, apply to our own universities, you will get research opportunities and facilities that you cannot imagine by sitting there right now. Okay, so for me, when I arrived here, it just blew my mind, because I've like spent how many years in Dibrugarh University? Nearly 4 5 years, and nearly 6 years, I would say. And when I came here, it was a whole different experience, and I want all of you to have that experience. Okay. So yeah, so that's all from my side. So it's really late. So if once I get the questions, I will try to answer them, and I will leave after that, because it's 1:15 a.m. in the morning. Okay, Okay, so can I have some questions?
Thank you, sir, for sharing your wonderful experiences with us. Now, when Abhijit sir was sharing his experiences at 1:40 a.m. midnight, I personally got various insights to the research life in USA, such as the selection of a topic beforehand, the areas of research you want to do, his fascinating PhD in English and creative dissertation, importance of self-research before you get admission, making a list of the universities, the Alman universities that you want to apply, and so give us a very important deal. And I personally found it very fascinating that don't go for the university, go for the program. Also, sir said about writing to the departments you want to get in, and his technical and practical insights were very helpful to us. Also, sir spoke about the funding and scholarship, which is a privileged affair to deal with. It is important to be aware of these opportunities, and I'm thankful for sir for giving us an insight to these privileges that we are not being part of. Critical understanding, which is also an important part of research in America, and the 3 recommendation letters, which is a plus point from associative professors, which will be very helpful if we want to pursue research prospects in the field of humanities abroad. Now, sir, when I'm opening the session for the audience to ask questions, I personally have a question from my side, which I would like to start with. So the question is, how much difference does additional SAT and GRE scores make in terms of getting admissions to our universities in America?
I believe, I mean, it depends. Yeah, I think you have to mute the, Okay, so how much it matters? I think your GRE score matters if you're applying for humanities, and SAT scores. I mean, SAT scores are not asked for in English programs, but yeah. So I think TOEFL is very important. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, this is another practical thing I would say that a lot of people stress. I mean, while I was preparing for my TOEFL, people are like, you need to get a very good score in your TOEFL and like get a very good GRE score. I mean, GRE score is important. I believe you need to really have a good GRE score. I mean, you will have to ask the program whether they need a general GRE or a subject-specific GRE test. I mean, like they want you to take. But yeah, so I mean, TOEFL is just I think they don't even look at the TOEFL score. Trust me on that. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say this, that they don't even look at the TOEFL score. Just get a minimum score to qualify. I mean, if you don't qualify, then the graduate school will not give you admission. But yeah, so you need to have a good TOEFL score, but just qualify. That is what I'm saying. But GRE score, if they want the GRE score, you need to really do good in that. But yeah, so the programs I applied to, none of them asked for my GRE score. But yeah, my TOEFL was pretty good. I got like 105, I guess. Yeah, so I think that is not an issue with me. Yeah, I think that answers your question.
Thank you, sir. I guess there are no more questions. Diptanshu sir has once again thank the organizers for the invitations and for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts. I have to exit the meeting now since it's almost midnight here. Best wishes to the students. Thank you, Diptanshu sir. Thank you, Abhijit sir, for being here with us today. And now I would like to hand over the session to Dr. Nandini Chaudhary ma'am for introducing the third resource person. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Farhina. And yeah, it's good to see you, Abhijit. It's been quite some time, right? Okay, so after two very informative and very practical insights that we got, into research prospects in the field of humanities abroad. We now go to the third session of this international symposium, and it's really my pleasure to introduce to you all the resource person for this particular session, with a great future ahead. And to give a short introduction, she's currently working with us, of course, as assistant professor in the Department of English, JB College. She completed her post-graduation from the Center for English Studies, JNU, 2021, and her undergraduate was from Cotton University, 2019. She is a former part-time employee of Northeast Live, a reputed multilingual English channel in Assam. She is a veteran debater and a public speaker. She was awarded with the Youngest Speaker Award for Youth Parliament of India. She also has the honor of being the best debater both in the national and state platforms. She has qualified for JRF and Gates Fellowship in the year 2022. And her research area includes post-colonial, South Asian literature, urban cityscape, and gender. So with this very short introduction, I hand over it to you, Anansha. Please come over. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I hope my voice is audible both in this auditorium and also in the screen that is present before me. First of all, I would like to thank my organizers and also everyone present here, especially Pranami Bonia ma'am and everyone, my colleagues, respected Sir, Surajit sir, Deepa ma'am, everyone.
Video cancel हो गई।
My previous scholars for this wonderful input they have given us. We got to know about the procedures. We got to know how to do the research program in the class, in the that is the PhD program in US. How to apply for it. How to proceed with it. How to contact with the PhD scholars. Everyone. So I'm really thankful for my both previous scholars to give us such a fruitful and the skillful input. And I hope everyone, even with together with me, I am really blessed to hear your beautiful thoughts. And also we got to learn many things, and the main thing is that whether we left. So I'm going hope this time I will be successful in presenting my screen. Okay. Okay, I guess it's visible now. Okay, everyone, I think it's visible for everyone. Okay, so the thing is that, whenever we hear about the word foreign land, whenever we hear about the word foreign universities, many thoughts comes into our mind. Like thoughts, like not only the thoughts, many kind of questions come into our mind. Like, will it be expensive? How can I cope up with in those lands? Will the fees will be feasible for me or not? And even there's some questions come up to the mind of the parents that will my child face racial discrimination? Will there be any kind of differentiation? All these kind of questions come to our mind, come to the mind of a candidate when he tries or she tries before applying to a university that is located in some foreign land. But don't worry, before, I have brought up a menu that is called All About Studying Abroad. It's a platter, full platter of delicious, how previous procedure of the foreign land. Okay, now let me start my screening. That is my slideshow. The topic of my today's presentation is called All About Study Abroad. Okay. Now, before applying to any foreign universities, main questions come to our mind is that why foreign admission? Is the universities in India that bad? It depends upon the in whichever there's reasons why you want take your admissions in the foreign land. Okay. Now, first of all, the first reason is the ease of the admission. Now, I'm not telling about that it is very easy to get in the foreign land. No, absolutely not. But you know that India is a country full of rat race, right? So starting from the JEE mains to NEET and CUT, PG, UG, there is a hell lot of competitive exams. So a student, if he or she has to, take the admission to one of the most top priority universities, have to compete in all those kind of examinations. That's why, the comparative to that, the foreign admissions. Now, next is the more study option or the multidisciplinary. Although we know that according to the new education policy, the multidisciplinary has already come to India, but it is already prevalent. It is already there in the the foreign land. Now, there's a thing in the foreign land that you can choose your professors. You can choose with whichever course you want to read, whichever course you want to pursue, and whichever professors you want to read under. There are more available courses and more available options to you in the foreign land. Suppose our candidate was studying about the medical and the engineering, and together with that, he can also take history as his minor major, as his minor subject. So there are many, more study option, multidisciplinary option, which is not till now available in the current education system of India. Next is the quality of education. Now, talking about the quality of education, I'm not talking about all the private institute present in India, but most of the other public sector institute and other institute lack that kind of thing. Not about the quality of institute education, but the equipments, the lab, the 24-hour library system is not available in most of the foreign land. Has all the facilities from library, 24 hours library, to well-equipped lab, and all the kind of things that are absolutely necessary for a student to further procedure to. Okay. Okay, now we know whenever we are traveling to some other country, we will get an exposure that is present worldwide. Not only the student present in our own country, we will get to know, we will study together with many students present from different parts of the world. Okay, and the thing is that will help the student to learn about their culture, that will help the student to learn about their method of education present in the country, and most importantly about the languages and the cultural integrity that is present in the different countries, in the different method. And this kind of thing may help the student, apart from getting their primary education, may help the student to get the additional exposure that they want to get in their student era of life. Now, moving to the next part, that is, the main question arises in our mind when we are preparing our admission procedure, when we are thinking that we will go to a foreign land, that when should I start preparing for this foreign admission procedure? These are the things that mainly comes to our mind. Okay, suppose you are in the 3rd sem or the 4th sem of your UG or the PG semester, then most of these things may come to our mind that, okay, after my UG or PG, I want to go to the foreign land. But the thing is that when should I start preparing? What is the correct period of time? Then the answer will be 18 to 20 months before the application procedure. Okay, because I am telling you this because the 18 and 20 months before the application procedure is a long period of time, almost 1.5 years, right? You may think, who will wait along this kind of a long expanded period? But the thing is that you have to start preparing 18 to 20 months before the application
application procedure starts. Why? Because it's not only a different country where you are moving. It is not only a different institute where you are going to study. There are many other things involved together with it. There are the scholarship procedures, there are the hostel fees, there are the tuition fees, there are the rent fees. There are also the types of courses you want to occupy. Okay. So the thing is that that's why all these procedures need a long period of time, and it's always better for a candidate to start preparing 18 to 20 months before the application start. Now, if you're applying somewhere in the States or in the UK, usually the application procedure starts in the mid-July or June. So, before that application procedure starts, and the deadline of that application procedure usually remains till the mid of the December. So you should start by January or February of the previous year, and then only you can complete the entire procedure regarding the application methods. Okay. Now let's start. This next question is that there are many other questions that come to our mind while we are preparing. So the most important question is that what are the things that I should do in this preparation month? As I have already told you that you will need 18 to 20 month period of time, but what are the things that you need to do? You shouldn't sit idle with thinking that the application will start, or I will start doing when the application procedure will begin. No, absolutely not. There are some pre-preparation that you should do before the procedure actually starts. So let's now discuss what are those preparation procedure or the method. Number one is that you should be very specific about the course of study you want to do. That is the first step you have to do. Just because you are studying English literature as your major in UG doesn't mean that you can do your English literature as your PG in your foreign land. So you have to be very pinpointed, very specific to whatever course of study you want to do there in the foreign land or in the outer land that you have decided to do. Then what are the next steps? First method is that prepare an Excel sheet. Prepare a Microsoft Excel sheet. First, club down whatever course you want to do. If you want to do English literature together with the liberal art or together with the creative art as your minor, club down every possible course of study available in that part of land. And next thing is that you have to put it down one by one, column wise in your Excel sheet. Done. That part is clear in your 18 to 20 month of period. Next, you have to move to the next important part, that is prioritize your university and your location. Your university and your location is the most important, is the paramount important in this kind of procedure, because the location that you will stay, the university that you will attain the degree will matter the most for you. Okay, there are some kind of universities that provides technical degree to the student. There are some kind of university that only provides the creative art or the liberal arts to the students. So you should be specific for the kind of university you want to do, you want to go. And next is the location. Why I am talking about location is that location matters the most, because after staying for 19 to 20 years in a particular land, your body gets habituated to the weather and your circumference in whatever you have been adopted. That's why researching about the location in whatever you are preparing for your further studies is the most important, because that kind of location may not be feasible for your health. Your health may break down, your mental health, your physical health may break down, right? There may be too much cold, there may be snow, there may be too much hot in that period in that location. So your body will not be, allowing you to go there. That's why before, together with selecting the, university, your location should be very specific at that point of time. First, I have told you to decide the course of study, pinpoint that in your Excel sheet. Next is that research about your location and university. Also, together you have to put it down in that same Excel sheet. Suppose XYZ university in XYZ country provide a good career opportunity for the English major student. You have to pinpoint very carefully in your action about your course of study. You will be very clear about the location you want to actually university website and look for the deadline. Okay, now the thing is that whenever I'm this is the pre-procedure kind of thing. The university already has different kind of website open for the candidates. Okay, now the next step will be that research the university, go into the websites of the university, gather as much information as you can, because if you are going to that particular university, not a student, not a professor, but your university website will give you the most important, the most necessary information that you want to gather. Okay, the next point is that look for the deadline. Now, some universities, like for the University of China's universities present in China or Thailand, usually prepares their deadline by the mid of January or by mid of December. But the universities present in US and UK have their deadline by December, and universities present in the Scandinavian countries usually have their deadline by the mid of July. So you have to first, I have already told you that you decide your location. So by deciding the location, you have to be very specific, and then you have to look for the deadline, because according to that you can about the fees, scholarship, etc. That is needed for a student. You need to survive there. For your survival, you need to know what is the tuition fee, what is the hostel fee, and what are the scholarship given by the university for the particular candidates. There are different kind of scholarship for the international and national students. I will explain you all these things later on. But when you're in a preparation mood, you have to be very specific. You have to research about the hostel fees, tuition fees, and all that kind of scholarship available in that institute for your more feasibility, for your helpness in the the admission procedure. Next thing is that start mailing your professors or seniors for more other details. Now the thing is that this kind of thing is not necessary for the undergrad program, but if you are going into a program with masters with Hello, everyone. Once again, sorry for the glitch. So I will be continuing from wherever I have. Okay, just a second. Let me share my presentation again. Okay. So I have, before this internet glitch, I have ended with my last point of what are the things that I should prepare in this preparation month, what are the things I should do, is that start preparing for your exam, start preparing for your screening exams. Now the thing is that there are some kind of screening exam, there are some kind of language exams that these foreign universities ask for whenever a student from another non-English speaking country visited that country or visited their universities. Although there is a good news that after the outbreak of COVID, many of the universities like University of California, Berkeley, University of Michigan, University of Illinois, Stanford, and many other universities have waived it of this kind of screening examinations. But if you are late for the party, if you have not given this, the screening examination, you don't have to worry. But please check the university website whether they have waived off these screening exams or not. And together, whether you are required or not required, let me explain what kind of screening exams are available for this foreign students in that universities. Now, first is the graduate record exam, that is called GRE. GRE is one of the most important exams required for the foreign for the international students, and usually the GRE records a total mark of 340, and out of 340 you have to score at least 200 plus marks to get into one of the topmost university, usually in US. And the next is the TOEFL, that is called Test of English as a Foreign Language. It is one of the language examination you have to give if your mother tongue, if your mother language is not English. And next is the International English Language System, that is IELTS. IELTS comes with the bandwidth, and you have to get a good bandwidth of, that is the minimum of 7.5 to get into one of the topmost universities. And other exams are like the GMAT, SAT, MCAT, LCAT, etc. But nowadays, what happens in most of the university, if you are able to prove that your medium of language, if your medium of teaching in your previous college or university was English, if you are able to provide a proof to the council, then you are not required to give all this kind of examination. Because now the thing is that this kind of screening examination are quite costly for the Indian students. It almost costs for around 13,000 to 18,000 per sessions. So check the universities before, and if you are asked to report the NOC or some kind of proof that your medium of teaching was English, then you are escaped from this kind of screening examination. Now next, move to the main procedure. Now in this we have completed. We are moving to the next main part of our application procedure. We have already completed our 18th or 20 months pre-procedure of the admission process. Now we have come to the main session. We have come to the main months of where the application procedure will begin. Now the thing is that usually I am talking about the universities present in US or UK. Usually their admission procedure starts in the month of mid-June to mid-July. So what you should do before, to get immediately after the admission procedure starts. Okay. Now, the first thing is that clear your admission query by opening a university account. Okay. Now, university, these websites will have an account for every candidate that want to apply to their university. Log into that university portal, and there you will get to know all the application documents that are needed for your further application procedure. And then you will be clear that what are the documents, SOP, CV, everything that are required for your full length admission. The next thing is that together with the logging off of the account, you will get to know the deadline of that particular university, and that is the most important. Looking for the deadline will give you a time, will give you a long period of time for preparing for your other method, for preparing for your other procedures. Now, the thing is that whenever the application procedure starts by mid-June or July, I will like to request you to start writing your personal information, because your writing down or penning down your personal information also takes much time. It also takes a lot of information. That is why you need to complete your personal information at the beginning of the procedure. Okay. The next start comes your documentation process. I have written down in my presentation whatever documents or the paperwork you need during the admission procedures. They are the academic transcripts, that your academic mark sheets from class 10 till your recent degree, your statement of purpose, letter of recommendation, essays, CV, personal statement, publication, extracurricular, and if you are going for your PhD program, you need an additional research proposal. Now, you know all about the academic proposal. Now, I will explain you in detail what are the statement of purpose and what is your personal statement. For the other documentation like the letter of recommendation, essays, CV, you need to prepare together in that hand. Now, the letter of recommendation will be given to you by your professors. So, as my previous scholars have already told you, that you need to be in good hand with your professors so that they can write LOR for you. Usually, the universities ask for 2 to 3 LOR, but the professors may need time to write your LOR. So whenever you are starting your application procedure, please ask them to write your LOR, and please request them individually to give a good and a precise LOR for you. That will help you to help the academic council to specify you why do you want to get in the university. Next is that essays. If you are going for some PhD program or research program, if your field of interest is some kind like mine is post-colonial, you need to write some kind of essays. You need to write kind of critical essays regarding your field of interest that will be attached together with your other documentation. Next is your CV or the curriculum vitae. Please mind it, your CV should be, almost 2 to 3 pages, and whatever required information, whatever transcript, what are the information regarding, needed for the admission board, you need to pen down everything in your CV. But I will make you the difference later on. Next is the personal statement. I will come to it later on. Next is the publications. If you have any kind of publication, extracurricular, like if you play badminton, sing a song, if you are having some gold medal in some national activities, or having a UGC Kerala's published journal, try to pen down everything. Try to attach them everything with your documentation. And last is your research proposal. If you are going for the PhD program, your research proposal is must for your academic, for your admission procedure. Now, next thing is that, whenever the admission process starts, you will be asked for many essays. You will be asked for many, many kind of documentation. And most of this, 2 main documentation is that one is the personal statement and other is the statement of purpose. Now, your personal statement is your story. Personal statement is about your personal experience, your work, your volunteer experience, and everything in the past that has made you the person that you are today and has led you to arrive at this juncture where you are applied, where you are motivated to apply to the college. This is the path. Your personal statement will everything about your past experience, will be about your past stories. But mine here, it is completely different from your SOP. That is the statement of purpose. Your SOP on the other hand is a bridge between your past experience and your future that you want to build at that program, specifically at that university. So please mind that gap. Please mind this. You differentiate that past experience is your past story and your SOP is a bridge between your past and your future. Next thing is that a personal statement is usually asked by the admission board or the admission office to figure out whether you fit in their student community or their student body. On the other hand, your SOP will be asked by the admission counselors to decide whether you are fit for their program or not. One is for your student body, the other is for your program. These are the difference. The next thing is that the focus of your personal statement will backward. The insight of your personal statement will always be backward. It will look backward, what you have done in the past, but your SOP will look forward. The focus of your SOP will what you want to do in the future with the degree that you have got in the foreign university. That is, the focus is always forward. Next is that the content of a personal statement is always flexible. You are free to write whatever you want to write in your personal statement, but on the other hand, that is not feasible in SOP. The content of SOP is always fixed. You have to write this kind of thing, and that is fixed. But in personal statement, you are free to do whatever you want to write. Now, last is that there are no specific sections in the personal statement. A personal statement, you can give as much paragraph you want to give. You are allowed to give. You have the freedom. But in the SOP, there are some fixed sections like your academic qualification, like the dissertation you have done in the last course, like the project that you have done, like the mentor you have worked with in your last course. These are the specific sections that are the particular in your SOP. Now the question may comes to your mind, how we will write this SOP or personal statement. And yes, I forgot to mention in one line in this. Personal statement is basically asked during the UG degree course, and SOP is asked during your master's and graduate degree program. So there is a difference. So you have to note very carefully which statement or which essay the university wants from you. You have to be very specific. Do not give SOP in place of personal statement. And if your personal statement is asked, please remember, do not give your SOP. Now, the question becomes to your mind, how will we write our SOP or how will we write our personal statement? Now, coming first to the personal statement, let us club down some of the sections. How can we write our personal statement? First thing is that, always remember your personal statement should contain the information that are not in your CV. Your CV is your official documentation. You have already given your CV that I have passed my HSLC examination from the SEBA board or Assam High Secondary Board, etc., etc. Please mind that your personal statement should not contain that. Your personal statement should contain other specific past experience, like you have worked as a volunteer from some of the orphanage. You have worked as worked for some NGOs. These are kind of sections that are regarded that can be clubbed down in your personal statement. Next thing is that please differentiate whatever kind of descriptions or stories you can give in your personal statement and whatever things you can have to include in your SOP. So you have to make that differentiation. Your personal statement is your past experience, your academically qualified experiences of the past that is already completed now. So these are the sections you have. These are the things you need to be careful while writing your personal statement. Now, coming to the most important, that most of the 70% of the universities in this entire world asks for is that SOP, or the statement of purpose. Now the thing is that the question comes to our mind, how can we write this SOP? For your convenience, I have narrowed down the entire SOP procedures into 6 P's. You will always see here 6 P, P for purple, P. Okay, now first procedure is that purpose. First procedure, your first paragraph in your statement of purpose should be your purpose. Your first question should be, why in the first place you want to graduate? Why in the first place you want that degree from that kind of particular institute? If you are going for some professional courses like doctor, like medicine or engineering, then what are your expectations from that university, from that particular kind of courses, right? What are your outcomes? What you will do? Like if you have get the master degree from the XYZ universities, then what jobs or what your future prospect will be? So what are your expectations? These are some of the questions that should come in your first paragraph of the SOP, right? So for your purpose, your main purpose, that what you expect from the university, on the other hand, what you are going to give to the university, that is the vice versa process should be there, right? That should be your first paragraph. Second paragraph is your past experience. I'm already telling you, please mind here your past experience. That is your second paragraph. Your SOP should not conflict with that of the personal statement. In the personal statement, you have already, declared that you have worked for some NGO, you work for the orphanage, but here that will be some kind of different. This is your official statement. Here you will, let the counselors or the academic counselors know that you have worked on some dissertation, you have worked on some project, you had your previous mentor, you had the kind of fellowship. This kind of personal past experience should be included in the second paragraph of your SOP. Now third is that program. Third main P is this is the third P is the cox of your SOP, is the program. The main question comes here is that why that university? Why that location? Main question comes here. Now you have to give your correct, vivid description, your justification, why you want to go to that university. What are the specifications? What are the advantages that kind of university will give you, or the university is giving to the other student, which the things that you got attracted and you search for that university and now you are applying. So the next third is the most important, that why that university. You need to justify your answer. You need to justify why that location. Suppose I'm telling you that you are applying to some university of San Francisco, like you like that big bridge of San Francisco or some kind of other like London or Big Ben of London, then you have to clearly write all this thing, that this kind of thing this is kind of monuments in the location gives me a different kind of pleasure. This kind of monuments I like to travel, so I have the traveling scope if I visit that university. So you have to be very specific why that university and why that location. Third is your personality. Your personality should reflect in your statement of purpose. Your fourth paragraph is your personality. The thing is that instead of writing all that usual kind of thing is like, I am very honored to be a part of this university, try to think something out of the box. That think out of the box means is that, whenever you are writing a personal statement, start with some antidote, start with some quotes, start with some famous sayings by some famous person. That will help you to attract the academic counselors sitting in that 7 seas abroad, right? That will give you some kind of thing that, okay, this girl or this candidate or this person has that caliber to be a part of our university. So your personality should reflect in your statement of purpose. Without that, your application is incomplete. And the fifth thing is that what I like to say is the plain English. Plain English, please mind it here. you have to write plain English. Do not go for thesaurus, do not go for ornamental language, because these kind of people, the academic counselors sitting there, they are already experienced persons, right? They will connect your SOP to the other essays that you have given together with it. So the main thing is that first thing here, usually people, they have the tendency of, laziness and all that kind of thing. So people usually give to write someone else for their SOP. But if my SOP is written by someone else, that person will not know who I am. So the first thing is that you have to write your own SOP, and your personality should reflect in your SOP. So using your plain using your plain language, they will get to know that this kind of letter is written by the candidate by their own, without any plagiarism, without any kind of help from any other person. Now, the last process is now the last P, or the last, big P, whatever I like to call, is the process. Now, whenever you're writing the SOP, give yourself as much time as you can. It may take 15 days, it may take 1 month, but do not, hesitate at that point of time. Rewrite again and again. Rewrite. You may cut down one SOP, you may rewrite again, but ultimately, you will see at the end, you will get a SOP with a greater depth. So check for your, grammatical errors, check for your punctuation mark, check for your all the mistakes, cut it down, rewrite again and again, and at the end of the time, take at least 1 month of time, and you will get the best SOP you want to gift that to the academic counselors sitting abroad. Okay, now moving on to the next, that most of the students even ask me, ma'am, if there is kind of scholarship available in the foreign land where we can get, the 100% scholarship, whether we can study freely, because, honestly speaking, for a student us sitting in India, studying in a foreign land is really costly. We cannot afford. This is also becomes a kind of headache for our parents, because we are, at this point of time, we are the dependent of our parents. So we have to look for scholarship. Here I have penned down some of the scholarship that is 100% scholarship available for the students. That is, first is the Chevening scholarship for UK. Now, in this scholarship, 60% is marks you need to get in your UG degree. Usually this Chevening scholarship is for the master's and your graduate program, and you need to have 2 years of working experience. What are criteria? I'm telling for the first one, that is the Chevening scholarship for the UK, that is 60% marks in your UG degree. Second is that 2 years of working experience, and the main thing is that this Chevening scholarship is fully funded scholarship and covers your tuition fees, your living costs, travel costs, and your visa costs. These are the 4 things that your Chevening scholarship for the UK will cover. Please mind here, this entire scholarship will cover for around 30 lakhs of rupees. 30 lakhs, for your round figure will be 30 lakhs of rupees. Now, second is that Monash International Leadership Scholarship for Monash University, Australia. Now, Monash University is one of the most leading universities of Australia, and it is one of the top 100 universities globally. So what are the criteria? Let me give you a brief. That is 100% tuition free for the entire duration of the program, and the student need to be member of one of the student body to fulfill the criteria. First is that 100% tuition fee, 100% your tuition fee will be covered, and on the other hand, you have to be a member of their student community. Now, third is that Concordia Presidential Scholarship for Concordia University, Canada. Now, the thing is that whatever covers in the Concordia President is that covers the tuition fees, living costs, and is awarded for a full-time undergraduate international student for the UG program. Number third is that Concordia Presidential covers the 100%, the tuition fees and the living costs for a UG international student. Now, the fourth is that Fulbright scholarship. Please mind here, Fulbright scholarship is one of the most toughest scholarship. You need to be very competitive in this kind of scholarship. Now, Fulbright scholarship is generally awarded for both master's and the PhD program. Here you will be covering the tuition fee, airfare, living cost, and your health insurance. And last is that, there are many, but I am just clubbing up to the brief. Some of them is the Dinkin Vice Chancellor Emeritus 100% scholarship. Now here, this scholarship is especially for the humanities student. This specially covers for the students studying for the humanities and for the students pursuing their degree in the sports studies or liberal studies, etc. Now, let's see what they will cover. Now, it is open for both UG and the PG students, and the students with 85% in their 12th and grade and 80% in their bachelor degree is capable of getting this Dinkin Vice Chancellor Emeritus 100% scholarship. Now, you may think that whether the Indian government are awarding the students for getting for studying abroad or not. Yes, there are 10 to 12 scholarships given by the Indian government. I've clubbed down some of them, and the first is Fulbright Nehru Masters Fellowship. Now, the Fulbright Nehru Masters Fellowship is granted by the US-India Education Association. Now, it covers although it doesn't cover your 100% tuition or the living expenses, it will cover your accident fees if you have, come up with some kind of accident, or your sickness cost. Your sickness cost and your accident fee. Okay. Now, next is that Great Wall Program. It is a funded program in the collaboration of the Ministry of Government of China and Government of India. Now, the thing is that what are the things that will cover in this kind of program is a regular stipend, medical insurance, academics, tuition fee, etc. Now, there are other things I'm not going to be elaborating in all this, like the J.N. Tata Foundation, Aga Khan Foundation, Lady Mirabai Foundation, Tata Foundation, all these kind of scholarships are available. And please mind here, Lady Mirabai Tata Educational Trust is for the ladies, is for the women students who want to pursue their education in Europe. This especially for the 100% education fee for the lady students or the female students who want to pursue their degree in Europe, especially in Europe. If you want to get your scholarship, please visit all these websites regularly, and then you will get to know what are the other perks and boons of this kind of scholarship that you are going to get. Now, moving on to the next, we have already started the procedure. We have submitted our application process. We have completed, we have done the documentation. We have got to know the scholarship. Now, what are the after processes that we need to do? Now, here the thing is that the selection or the rejection depends upon your academic scriptures and all your documentation. But if I always want you guys to go there and you get selection, now what are the things that you need to do after your selection procedures, right? So that your struggle doesn't end here. Your struggle doesn't end by submitting your online application. There are many kind of things that you need to know after your selection process. Now, what are the things that you need to look after? Now, first is that start your visa application process, because your visa application process is one of the lengthiest procedure. Because you are going to stay there for 4 or 5 years, your visa application process may need time. I have even experienced some of the stories that the deadline for the taking the admission in a particular university was on June, but that the student's visa arrived on August. So do not delay in that procedure. Your visa application, if you don't get your visa on time, your application may even get cancelled. So first and foremost is that after your selection procedure, start your visa application process. Now, second is that connect with the people of the institute, right? So where you will get all this kind of people, where you will get your seniors, you will get these people in LinkedIn. I think every one of you have heard about LinkedIn app or Facebook or all this kind of social media, right? Because the thing is that whenever you're packing your bags, your thing is that you need to know everything about the look, about the place, about the experience, and this kind of people can give you the recent experience that they are feeling or they are experiencing at that moment of time. Maybe it's raining there, maybe it's snowing there, and that person in the university sitting there will advise you to carry an umbrella together with you, will advise you to carry 2 pairs of extra sweaters together with you, right? So this kind of information you will not get in the university website. Now, next thing is that if by any chance you do not get your scholarship, please apply for your health insurance or for your travel insurance, because these kind of things also need a long procedure of time. Your health insurance is one of the most important thing that you will need during your entire procedure of your program. If something, by God grace, I don't want that happen, something or the other happens to you, your entire medical expenditure will be cut out from your health insurance. So please start your application procedure for your health insurance. Then third is that if you don't get your scholarship, look for the best education loan. Now there are some kind of the educational institutes coming up giving the best loan for the people, so look for the best education, 100% education loan with the minimum installment, with the minimum interest procedure together, accommodate with together with it. So these are the 4 things you need to look. And the third thing is that start looking for your flight ticket. Please start looking for your flight ticket. After getting your, application selection procedure, your flight ticket is one of the most important gateway. Otherwise, how can you travel? This foreign land you can't get to by your Tatkal train ticket, right? So you need to get your flight tickets booked already, and also it costs a lot of amount of time. So you need to be very clear about these 5 kinds of things. Now, before ending my presentation, I would like to give you some of the important tips that are necessary for a student. If you are for a candidate, if you want to get there as a full funded, or whether full funded or part-time funded, or whether you are this research scholar, there are some kind of tips that will be helpful for you. First thing is that do not get into those travel agents. These travel agents are like the pimps. They will give you different kinds of exposure. They will say that this is a very easy way, but do not get into those travel agents. They will charge a heavy cost for you, and that might not be affordable for you. Now, next thing is that instead of going to the travel agents, try to research as much information as you can. Try to gather other necessary information, like what are the medicines that I need to take from India. Suppose you are suffering from some kind of disease, like so sorry, like that kind of medicines are not available in US. So what are the kind of medicines that I need to take together with me in India? So gather till that kind of information as much as possible. Third is that try to attend the webinars organized by the embassies of the institute, embassies of the country, and also by the institute. These are the most important thing, because in those webinars you will get to, you will get together with the students. You can ask the questions directly to the counselors. You will get to know as many things from all these webinars and seminars organized during the online procedures. Next thing is that if you are in Facebook or Instagram, try to join their community pages. These are helpful because some kind of adventure, like about the